On today's show, we're talking about relationships and how we're designed to need each other for growth and development. It doesn't matter if you're young or if you're old, we can all learn something from each other. On today's show, we're joined by Matt and Christy Henderson. Well, welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you on the show with us. Now, Matt was a coach and a teacher for 3 years.
That's correct.
And Christy has been teaching for 7 years now. And you're currently teaching sixth graders, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And they have both also been student pastors for many years, so they are a wealth of knowledge for us today on how we can all learn and grow no matter your age and relate to each other. You know, well, guys, today we're just going to sit, we're going to hang out, and we're just going to talk.
We're going to be real.
That's right.
All right.
We're going to
Let's
be
be
real
real.
and just talk about relationships.
Yes.
And hang out a bit. You know, many times as leaders, you know, we can surround ourselves by those who look like us, who are from the same demographic as us, you know, but it's best to grow us, to grow our organization if we surround ourselves with many different people from different ages. You know, Matt and Christy, excuse me, I'm sure you've seen the beauty of just surrounding yourself by those who are different from you, you know, who are younger than you and from different backgrounds. What have you seen in that?
I think the one thing that you said was surrounding yourself with different types of people. And, you know, I think one of the biggest problems that we have in society today is that we don't want to surround ourselves with people who think differently than us or people who look differently than us. But it's a beautiful thing when you're in relationship with people who are different than you. You know, they give you new ways to think about things. They give you new ways to even think about yourself. And so in our relationship, you know, coaching and teaching at Dorman, it's a very diverse district. And getting to meet different cultures and getting to meet different types of people just gives you a unique way to think about life. Seeing what they struggle with, seeing what this group has to deal with in their lives. It just gives you a unique perspective on seeing the world through the eyes of a different type of person.
And I think it makes you more sensitive as a person and more compassionate, because a lot of times you look at the lens of the life that you had.
Yeah.
But then when you look at it from even just a younger perspective and you realize that they're struggling with things that I never struggled with. And it causes me to not look at them and be like, well, why can't they just get over that? Instead, it causes me to be moved with compassion and want to figure out, how can we bridge this? How can we help this? What can I pour into you? What can you pour into me? And I would never get that if I didn't expose myself to people who are different and younger and older and just from different places. And I think it's just very beautiful, and it makes you as a person grow.
I believe it's what the kingdom looks like in heaven. It's what we're going to worship together. We're going to be different age and different ethnicities, and we're just going to worship together as a people, one people of God.
Now, just curious, I know like a lot of people make assumptions in their mind about, well, this person is a different color, or this person is a different ethnic background. What can I learn from them? Have you found that you've learned a lot from those different cultures, and even some of the things you would learn from this culture, you actually learn also from this another culture, that although they're different, they still do it the same?
Yeah. I work at a school where I am the minority, and it's very different. And coming in there, I have to build that trust, because they don't necessarily, they have preassumed notions about me as well. And it's caused me to kind of look at how I look at the world and what notions that I have because of how I've been looked at. And when we break it down, our feelings also get hurt at the same things. We laugh at the same things. And when you take away all that, when you build that relationship, when you put that aside and you begin to look at someone as just a person that feels the same, you really enjoy them. And that's what it is with my students. Like, I'm very different from my students, but we enjoy each other. And we had to get past that. They had to realize that I'm not judging them, and they're not judging me. I had to get past that too. And when we put that aside, we have loved and we have laughed, and then you forget that they're different than you, because you're just one people that just love each other.
Absolutely.
Looking at the kids that Christy has, because I actually got to sub at her school, at the very core is the notion that every single person needs to feel loved. no matter
Yes.
what they look like, no matter what they think like, no matter where they came from, no matter how much money they have. At the very core is everyone wants to feel loved and valued.
We all do.
Yeah, we all do.
We all do. Even, in an organization as leaders, we're supposed to surround ourselves, or, have people around us who are different from us, so we can all learn and grow, but have those people in our lives, who can shape us, and help us see those blind spots, in our lives, both professionally and personally.
Yeah.
We all have growth areas, but I like that you said, we're all the same. You're able to just pull down those barriers and those walls. We're different races, but we're same. We're very similar. And just to allow other people to come into your life and speak into your life, that's a beautiful thing.
I think so.
To build that trust, with each other. I know for parents, of teenagers especially, it can be very hard to get them to, let alone sit down with you, on the couch like this, but allow you just to speak into their lives. Can you speak to that a little bit for us of how do we break down that wall? Even as parents, you've been student pastors, you work with, teenagers and, young students now. How can we as parents build that relationship and speak into the lives of our children or those we're in relationship with who are younger than us?
I think one of the very first things you have to consider is that this generation is going through things that are very different than previous generations, just even with the inclusion of social media, of what they see online, how accessible it is, and so they're going through different things than previous generations went through. And so the first step is just to sit down and listen. That's one thing that Christy and I have learned is that we can do a lot of talking, and we do. We need to do a lot of talking. They need to hear from us. As we're an older generation, we've experienced things, but also we need to sit down and listen to them and see what they're facing, seeing what they've struggled with. Listening is in any type of relational avenue. It is the first step that you do.
And not mocking it.
Yes.
I think that's something that,
Or underestimating it.
yeah, sometimes even we've been guilty of, like teasing them about Snapchat or teasing them about something that to them is important, because as soon as you mock it or tease it or be like, well, back in the day, as soon as you do that, it devalues them.
Very
and they don't
true.
want to open up.
Now, just curious, you brought social media. Don't you think social media is so impersonal, though? I mean, I personally grew up with us having conversation on the table, with us having dinner together and talking through situations. But today, I mean, when I look even in the restaurants, there are families, and including my grandson, with a phone or iPad, and they're entertaining themselves. Don't you think that they become impersonal?
I agree with that 100%.
In that perspective?
Yes, I agree with that 100%. And I think, while you are, as a parent or as a leader, someone who needs to sit down and listen to them about it, but that builds that trust to where you'll be able to say, okay, now you need to sit it down. I understand that it's important to you, but there are times when you need to sit it down, such as, at the dinner table.
Right.
But it is such a big avenue for their life. That's how they communicate.
Right.
A lot of people don't pick up the telephone anymore. I have students and millennials who they don't text me anymore. They Snapchat. They send a snap. And so it's a different form of communication that it's like, it's gotten us to where it's like, well, why are you doing this when I just pick up my phone and call you?
And have a conversation.
And
Let's have a
It's
conversation.
having to adapt to that, but then it's at the same time when I do that, when I snap them back, I'm also able to kind of pour into them and talk to them through that and say, hey, how about today we call each other? Well, we can snap sometimes. Well, how about today we pick up the phone and see how how you're doing?
I think that they don't realize how much that they need the face-to-face.
Yeah.
Because we just go, well, that's just how they are, and we let it go. And although we shouldn't mock it, and although we should engage with them in it, I definitely think that's important. I think parents need to be on social media. I think that they need to see what their kids are posting. They need to follow them. They need, that's very important. But it also shows them, hey, I'm interested. But then you also need to say, hey, you know what, this is the time where I'm going to give you something that you don't know that you need, and have them put it down. And they'll learn to value it, and they'll miss it when it's not there. In my classroom, I call it courtesy mode. We put it down. put that computer screen down. We're going to have a face-to-face. And there will be times they'll say, Miss Henderson, can you put your screen down so we can have a face-to-face? And they've called me out on it. So when you give it to them, they've never had it, they'll want it back because they desire it, because it's deep down in us to want that.
Yeah, I think in the corporate world, I bump into that a lot because everything is through Same Time or Skype or, you know, and I think it's become so unpersonal even in the business world. I have difficulties and that, you know, communicating with people. I prefer to pick up a phone and say, hey, could we just have a quick chat and resolve this issue instead of the emails back and forth? It drives me crazy.
Well, you can't hear tone in emails.
No.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
You'll take something the wrong way really
Yes.
quick.
And it all depends on the mood that you're in.
Right, absolutely. How you receive it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's the same thing with relationship, though.
It is. Now, how important do you think it is to have mentors, you know, to mentor someone else? You know, we all become leaders, we all become teachers or whatever our field is to help people,
Right.
you know, to grow people. So how important do you think mentorship is?
I think it's very important. You know, I believe in spiritual mothers and fathers and people who have paved the way, people who have experienced things that, you know, I have a person in my life that pours into my situations and circumstances that we may be facing, and I sit down with him and I say, listen, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm facing, and he said, and he's able to say, I've been through that, I've seen that, and so it gives me kind of a ground level, grounding me in the sense that, you know, I'm not going to make rash decisions because I'm going to talk to someone who's been there, who's understood, who's made right and wrong decisions. And so I believe every student, every child, you know, every person needs someone who is mentoring them and leading them. Otherwise, you know, we get in a situation where we make those rash decisions. And I think that's important because we live in a very individualistic culture. But that's the whole aspect of the Bible is God said it's not good for you to be alone.
Absolutely.
It's not good for you to be alone.
And I think sometimes we're eager to mentor somebody, but sometimes I don't think we can be a good mentor until we've been mentored.
Yeah.
Right.
And because it's like, oh yeah, I'll help you out, but you might be helping out of a place that you don't even realize is your own insecurity or your own immaturity. And so I think you need to have somebody above you. And then I also think it's great to have somebody that you're mentoring because as it's being poured into you, you're pouring it out.
Yeah.
So it even sometimes when you're pointing it out, you realize, oh, hey, I need to go get that checked with my mentor. And like there have been times Matt and I have been very emotional and we've typed out things and we're like, well, we're going to handle this. And we're like, wait, we're going to run this through so-and-so first before we make this decision. And it's saved us a lot of face.
The biggest thing that you can look at is you can look at the ministry of Jesus. Jesus discipled the disciples, but then again, he created them and made them and fashioned them to be disciple makers.
Yes.
So he mentored them, he discipled them, and then he sent them on mission to do the same thing. Not to just lead, but to also disciple more leaders.
And you said a key word is lead. And I like another word that's guide, because there's mentors that are trying to tell you what to do. Those are not true mentors. Those are just people that are trying to micromanage you or create you to be what they want you to be.
That's right.
You need people that truly lead and guide you and not make decisions for you, but they try to make you the best you that you can be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They see the potential in you. You know, what you can be, you know, the gifts, the talents that the Lord has placed in you. And they try to help you fulfill your destiny, not theirs, you know, not use you for their agenda, but just it's about you and about what's best for you. So I love that. That's the guidance.
Yeah, this has truly been amazing. I love the time that we have spent together. I know it's short. Unfortunately, I would love to have you guys back, actually. I think there's so much that you can bring into our shows for our parents so they can as well grow with their children, and perhaps in a different topic, not necessarily this topic, but that we can bring you back. I've truly enjoyed this. I know, Keisha, you have as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you guys so much for joining us today on Power of Relationship. Remember, it's extremely important for you to have relationship not only at your level, but above you and below you. Mentor someone and show them the power that there is in having relationships.